Good evening. Welcome to another episode of the 757 Roundtable. I'm Vernon Lee, your co-host, co-founder of the Hampton Youth Foundation. We've had some amazing guests on the show, but tonight we got a really, really special group. We've talked football, we've gotten to some other sports, but we got some basketball legends, some gentlemen that done some amazing things professionally. So we'll get to know them tonight. Carl, what do we got going on?
No, well, thank you, Vernon, man, for that handoff. And as you know, I'm the co-founder of Hampton Youth Foundation as well, co-host of the show. But more importantly, man, these guys have been friends of mine for a long time, and it was just glad we've had a lot of football folks on because this is kind of where I live. But I mean, I can't forget the number of arguments and discussions around the way about basketball in the 757, and it don't start without these three guys. And the beauty about this show is that it's in three different eras. It's in three different layers. You got Rick start kicking it off, 82, 81 era. You got Slow coming in 83 in that era. And then you got Milan pulling up that 90s crew. And it's just a beautiful thing to get some bad dudes on here to talk about some things. So I'm kind of looking forward to it. Guys, what we really like to do is have each one of you kind of tell your story about where you grew up, where you went to school, how, just your journey to where you got here today, so people can get a feel for, hey, where you actually grew up. Is it, Rip Rap Road in Hampton, 28th Street? People really want to know, your story. So Milan, we're gonna let the youngsters start off a little early. So I'll let you start first.
Okay. Well, first of all, man, it's good to see all you brothers on here, man. It's anytime we can catch up with guys from the 757 is always a good day. So.
Yeah.
But as most of y'all know, I grew up in Hampton, Virginia. Started out playing when we still played then, you played everything. So we played football, baseball, basketball, anytime we could get out, anything we could do to get outside. And so, end up going to Kecoughtan High School. I had a little unique experience in the fact that both of my mother and father were teachers. So like I went to Eaton Middle School, but I went to Eaton mainly because my mother was teaching at Eaton and my father said, "You getting in the car with her." So I went to Eaton, and then from there went to Kecoughtan High School. As you know, my father was the coach at the time at Hampton University, before then at Bethel High School, but he was a math teacher at Bethel. And so, sports was always big in our family. It's interesting. It wasn't really something that was pushed on. It's just what we did. You just played. My mom and dad were more so worried about making sure we did what we were supposed to do in school and making sure that we were going to be good people. And if basketball, or in the case of my middle brother, Morocco, football could help us teach some lessons to do that, then that was the gravy. And so I played all three sports through high school. Each time, every year, I took one off. So when I got to the 10th grade, I didn't play baseball anymore. And then after the 11th grade, I stopped playing football. And so then it was, as my dad would say, well, hey son, I don't have it. So you need to do what you need to do in order to hopefully get this scholarship in order to go to school. You can do it by studying or playing. It doesn't matter to me. But if it doesn't work out, I know some people over at the shipyard. So, but it worked out and I ended up getting to Howard University. But it was great, man, to play. It's still funny being a basketball guy. I still remember those nights under the lights at Darling Stadium, man, with football. It was just, still something special about that. And then back when it wasn't closed down yet, we were playing, Ferguson was open. So we're playing against Ferguson. We all knew each other too. We played each other in the summer, whether it was Boo or just somebody's at the gym playing pickup at Jeff Davis, or Bethel High School's open up and everybody would just meet up and play. So it was always really competitive, and you always knew about the history of what was going on in all sports, because most of the time the guys came back and played with us. So it was a really good experience, man. I had great 4 years at Kecoughtan and never got a Peninsula District Championship like one of the guys on here, but I'll give you it to Slow. Slow was able to get one. But it was a great experience, man. It made me who I am today. It really did. The competitiveness of playing, it really did shape me who I was who I am as a man today, because it's just no days off.
Yeah,
Good stuff.
that's good stuff.
Well,
Yeah. Slow, you can go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. This is good for my soul, fellas, to be on tonight. Since the pandemic hit in March, I'm gonna be transparent about it in terms of just, it's taken me a lot of places in terms of just a lot of reflecting, and certainly being on here with all of you tonight. I've been looking forward to it. I will say this, I've spoken to Carl a couple of times. I think you mentioned it, Vernon, in terms of, this is probably close to your 20th episode, but this may be the first time you guys have had some basketball hoops on here. And I've listened to a couple of them, and back
we did
then,
have H. White. We did have H. We had H.
Oh, okay. I
We
missed
went
out.
heavy hitter first. We got you. We went heavy hitter first.
Right.
So, hoops was a big thing in 757. I still struggle with saying 757 because during our time, it was 804.
804.
So when I hear all the young people talk about it, I'm always saying 757. So if I ever have to write it or tweet it, I put 804 with an arrow. It's 757 because that's all I ever knew. And now, being away as much as I have, I've never been around it in terms of the 757, but much respect. And like Milan said, growing up in that area, it fed me a lot. It's a pleasure to be able to talk to you guys tonight and just to be able to share. I grew up in the Newport News side, or downtown, as we like to say. I live between Wickham Avenue and Roanoke Avenue. And I always said I was crunched in between Ferguson and Mitchfield. And no matter which way I went off the porch, I had to go to one of their areas to go play and had to compete in the summers. I loved it, but my first sport was actually baseball that I played regulation. In the 6th grade, I went over to 16th Street and Anderson Park. And there was a baseball league. And I went over there and I started playing and actually played 6th and 7th grade. And I played part of 8th grade. And then I stopped playing because the JV coach or intermediate coach at that time at Huntington High School, intermediate school, was Coach Kecoughtan. And he told me, if I ever think I'm going to be able to play in high school at Warwick, and that was a big deal, to play at Warwick, you're going to have to get better. You're not going to be that tall, and you better become better with your ball skills. But I don't know if many of you guys know, the nickname Slow, it started as slow motion, but it started with baseball because I would play middle infield, play outfield, but then one day we had a blowout game and the coach Tony Fox, put me on the mound, and I threw it and I wound up. He said, "No, throw the ball, throw it." I said, "That's all I got." He said, "Man, your ball goes in slow motion." And that name has carried me, stayed with me from 7th grade up until now. And it's ironic that our youngest, our son AJ, is going to go to college and play baseball on a scholarship. But that baseball piece, I enjoyed it. It was my first sport that I actually played regulation. And then, as a freshman, 9th grade, but see, at that time, I went to Huntington. We were still dealing with intermediate school at that time. So we were 8th and 9th, you went to Huntington High School, which is 10 blocks from 21st Street where I lived. And I played there as a freshman. And we had some success playing all the Newport News intermediate schools, Newport News Intermediate over town there. And then after that freshman year is when our head varsity coach at Warwick was Jim Harvey. And he was a basketball guy, man. That guy loved basketball. He was a big Dean Smith follower. And guys above me, Swinburne, Tree Lynch, Popcorn Richards, Nicholson, all those guys were 2 to 3 years older than me, but they were graduating. So now I'm going to be a sophomore. And to this day, you know, you're talking about someone giving you confidence and giving you belief. Jim Harvey actually cut 2 rising seniors and created an opportunity for myself and 3 other classmates as sophomores. And I was actually able to start as a sophomore at Warwick High School. And, you know, it was a proud basketball tradition there. And once he started me as a sophomore, but I played with Swinburne and Henderson, Robertson, and all those guys. And I was a young guy playing with seniors, but they started me, and my role was to play defense. But we had a great run, had a great season. And I'm leading into when those seniors left, I became one of the older, more experienced guys, even though I was a junior. But as a junior, Rick was a senior. And our first regular season game, because Swinburne and all those guys told me, hey man, we got to keep this thing going. If you're going to be the leader, we got to handle our business. And I felt the pressure to be able to help lead and continue winning at Warwick. Well, our first game of the season, my junior year, Rick, we lost at your place.
I remember that game.
Hey, you guys got it.
I remember that game.
Hey, believe me, I felt the heat after that night and that Saturday morning. And, you know, we had no cell phones, but somehow the message got to us at Warwick. Hey, man, are we in trouble? We lose to Phoebus, a school from Hampton. Well, guys, in Newport News, we thought Hampton, because of Hampton High School, was about football.
Yeah.
So you can't lose to Phoebus and hoops.
Right.
But I'm sitting there saying, hey, man, they got this big point guard named Wilson. And he started posting me up. I had to tell, hey, you guys got to, even though he handles the ball, on defense, I'm guarding the other guy. You guys got to defend him. But that night, you know, they got us, but we actually we may have lost one more game after that night, because when Rick and them came to us, we were able to win while at Warwick High School.
Oh, y'all were nice.
We won the district that year and went into the regionals and all. And I bring that up just seeing Rick, you know, much respect with the career he's had. And I've followed him for years, and then to see you, Milan, and what you're doing in the profession as well. And, you know, what you guys are doing, Vernon and Carl, you know, being in this profession, I'm starting my 31st season consecutively in coaching. And I started in 89 or 88. So I've actually touched on 4 decades of being in this profession. And, you know, when I look at us and how good Lord has blessed us to do what we're doing, but we're also having an impact on young people. And that's, you know, somebody paved the way for me, and I'm still trying to give back myself. I've been in this assistant coaching role 27 of my 31 years. And as I try to tell, you know, some people though, I've only been in their head seat for 4, but found a way to still make an impact on young people in what I'm doing, regardless of the title.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be tough to piggyback. So let me start by saying to both yourself and Vernon, yourself and Carl, there are not, which if you think about it, you'll notice to be apropos. There are not many. There's not a lot of cliff notes. There are not a lot of blueprints for our youth in 804, 757, call it what you will, but in this part of the Hampton Roads, there's not a lot of blueprints. And it's also challenging because I'm actually in my sister's house right now in Hampton. I'm never here. The fortunate and unfortunate part of us living in COVID right now, it's allowed me to be here and work from here. I've been here at least the last couple of months, back and forth, et cetera. First, I was living in Portland, Oregon, working with Nike. First, I was there and I was like, you know what, I'm going to my sister's house, and because a virtual call is a virtual call. So
Right.
unfortunately, I haven't had a lot of time to be here. I did camps over at Heritage High School for a while, but then I'm a very hands-on person, and the camps started moving away from me. And I was like, Carl, you came to him. I was like, you know, I don't know if I still want to do that. And it was one of the things that I felt, it wasn't for monetary gain. It was just to get in front of youth and tell them exactly what we're talking about right now. So to give you kind of the transcript, I grew up in Phoebus and, you know, obviously Hampton, but I grew up in Phoebus. There was a center, a recreation center called the Bradley Center, which when I was a kid, and my mom was, I can't really recall what she did when I was 6 and 7 years old when I first started going to the rec center, but everything in my house was blue collar. My father drove trucks for all different places. My mom, I knew in the final analysis of what she was doing, and I'm fortunate to still have her with me, she was cleaning dorms at Hampton. But I was blessed enough to say to my mom, time to stop doing that, so she was able to retire. I went to Jones Junior High School, and you know, I played 7th, 8th, and 9th grade there. And when I went to Phoebus in the 10th grade, I played JV maybe the first 4 or 5 games. I can't recall. It was a short while. They moved me to varsity, but you didn't have a lot of kids. I mean, Slow played varsity in 10th grade, but there weren't a lot of kids playing varsity in 10th grade. It's pretty prevalent now, but it didn't really, that wasn't the case then. You played JV, right? So I played JV a little bit in 10th grade. Then they moved me to varsity, which I didn't want to do. I was mad as FU about that. You know, I was like, forget that. I don't want to do that. I'm killing these cats in 10th grade. I'm good with it. So my dad, Bob Killen, who was the JV coach, actually had a conversation with Arnold Baker, who was the varsity coach, and was like, you got to move this guy up. I mean, the JV games it was easy. They were like, you got to move this guy up. So he told me to tell my father that they're thinking about moving me to varsity. And I came home, told my father, hey, think about moving me to varsity, thinking he's gonna kick back. He was like, no, you're doing that. First game we played, I didn't get in the game, but if you guys remember, Pope, Price, and Hagen, they were at Menchfield. That was my first game playing varsity. And I watched those dudes play, and I was like, you know what? I'm good enough to play. I mean, versus going to, these guys are better than I am. And I was in the 10th grade, and I think those 3 were seniors, I believe, when I was in the 10th. Obviously playing different positions. They were much taller as well. I wanted to play. I went from being scared to being in 10th grade at varsity, which Slow would have been your 9th grade year. I went from being afraid to sitting on the bench, never playing, and being pissed off every single game. The summer going into my 11th grade year, they had a summer league, and if I remember correctly, it was at Kecoughtan High School. That whole summer, my father drove a truck. He used to come home from his job. I would take his boots and I would put them on my feet. We lived on Old Buckrow Road, right behind Jane Bryant Elementary School. I would put them on my feet. I would run to Buckrow Beach. I'd have my track shoes in my hand. When I got to the beach, I would switch the shoes and I'd run in the sand the whole day. Then I'd go home, I'd shoot around, blah, blah, blah. This was all before the games at Kecoughtan. This is going into my 11th grade year. And then we went to Old Dominion's camp, and probably might have been the first time that I started seeing guys from, you know, through the district. My first interaction with Slow, quite frankly, was at the camps, but then I knew he could play. So by the time we got to, you know, the Peninsula District, I knew who guys were on the other teams. Albeit, if you remember, Slow, I never talked to anybody. Like guys now have conversations. I ain't say nothing to nobody.
There were no meetings at half.
There were no meetings.
Right.
I didn't talk to nobody. I didn't talk to nobody at the camp. I didn't talk to nobody before the game. Nothing. Zero. My 11th grade year, the dude that started in front of me, they very similar to what Slow stated. They took a chance and started me over him, and it was curtains. At that point, I knew I was one of the better players in the district. And then Bob Killen, who again was the JV coach, was like, you should put him at the point because no one in this district is his size and strength playing the point. I could run, I could jump, I could shoot. So he let me go. What was really funny is after my sister's 1 year older than I am, and she was going to college. She went to Norfolk State, went to Hampton, but she was going on an academic scholarship. So going into my 11th grade, going into my senior year, she was graduating. And I remember having a conversation with my mom and dad. And I was like, so, because I didn't know how she was going to school. I knew she was going, but I didn't know how she was going. Well, I said to my mom and dad, I'm like, hey, Dad, what do you guys have saved for me for college? So he goes, what do you mean? I said, what do you guys have saved? I want to go to college. What do you guys have saved for me to college? He goes, do you want me to, is this including what we just put in the bank for you as well? I said, yeah. He goes, not shit. So you need to make this basketball work or you ain't going. So my senior year, that my entire focus was on, I didn't hang out. I didn't have a car. I had to get my parents' permission to go to the store and back in their car. Didn't have girlfriends that I was hanging on or were hanging on me. I was absolutely 100% committed to playing basketball. And then to take it one step further, when I got to college, it was a little bit of the same. My freshman year, played sparingly. My sophomore year, I blossomed because another person, Rick Barnes, who's now at Tennessee, he was the head assistant coach when I was in college. And he told me when I was a sophomore, he goes, as long as you're willing to, I wanted to play the two guards. I wanted to shoot. I wanted to score. And he's like, as long as you're willing to play the point, you have a future in basketball. I was like, what do you mean? Point guards aren't your size. They are now, but they weren't when I was a sophomore in college. So he made me stay up at George Mason in Fairfax during the summer. I don't know if it was legal or not, but he made me do it. I stayed at his house the whole summer. Every morning we lifted weights, we ran, we swam, went to the gym. And then I was playing in the Kenner League in DC, but I was doing all of that before I went and played. So very similar to what Slow stated and what Milan has stated as well. People actually showed a level of faith or trust and was like, they kind of showed me a bit of the path. And without that, it's really, really difficult. Now working at Nike, I've gone through a myriad of different positions, but a huge part of what I enjoy doing is talking to those same kids, because unless you tell them, and unless you're pulling them along and you giving them some level of guidance, giving them a clear understanding of exactly how they can be, any one of the five of us on this call, it can sometimes be a dicey proposition. I mean, yeah, there are those who fully understand it. There are 9th and 10th graders who know in the 9th and 10th grade, they want to be cardiologists. There are few and far between of them. Most people, whether it's professional football, basketball, or baseball, at grade 6 and 7, they think that's what their future offers, when it's probably less than 1% that actually transfer through that. I'd say it's even lower than that, right? So for me, it's always important to talk to people about what I do, because you got much more of a chance of being successful off the grid, meaning baseball, basketball, football, hockey, soccer, pick one, than you do on it. So the opportunities like this, and whomever may hear, I think the interactions that we have this evening, it's going to be fun for me.
Now, Rick, you definitely hit on it. And I think, and oftentimes when we're communicating to some of our target audience, whether it's the youth, sort of high school, middle school, high school, we got a lot of collegiate youth. And then we're talking to their parents and supporters. Because you guys each talked about, because you've each had some amazing success at George Mason, killing the CAA tournament, Slow, Final Four, Milan. I think the last time Howard went to the tournament was your year, but you've all had tremendous success collegiately. But could you give an example of some adversity? And again, because part of, I think what a lot of people need to understand is like, it's hard. On the court is hard, off the court is hard, but maybe give an example of, some adversity or something you had to deal with, whether, again, on the court or off the court while you were in college, because we also want to make sure those stories are shared. Milan, you want to?
Yeah. Well, the biggest one that happened to me was, when I went to Howard, A.B. Williamson recruited me. After my freshman year, they let A.B. Williamson go, and they brought in Butch Beard. That Butch played for the Golden State Warriors 76 championship team, coached in the pros, been in the pros. And so my sophomore year, I played a lot. So I played some as a freshman, but still it was probably maybe 20 minutes. My sophomore year, I was playing about 22 to 25, was starting and things of that nature. My junior year comes up. I started the first 10 games, I think. And we were probably 1-9. And the one game we won, we were at Miami. Butch had brought in a freshman class, a point guard, good friend of mine, Tommy Brown, was a freshman, and Butch's son, Corey, were a freshman. So we get ready to start for the MEAC tournament, for the MEAC play. And about 2 games or 3 games before, he brings myself and Rob Riddick in, who started 2, and says, listen, I'm going to make a change. I'm going to start both the freshmen. And I want you all to come off the bench. And so I'm going crazy. I can remember being so mad. We had a chance with Michael Finley and those guys at Wisconsin. Like, it was a bye game for us, but we're in the game. I'm so out of it. Like, I'm in the game at one point. I think they called me for a travel. Carl, I take the ball and throw it up as high as almost as a scoreboard. And it comes down. It's like a 2-point game. Technical foul. They make both free throws. We down 4. They take the ball out. I think Finley makes a 3. We down 7. They walk away from us. So I'm upset and figuring out what's going on. And I'm not playing well. So I finally get to talk to my dad. So everybody on here.
Ooh.
Hey, so you know what's coming. True story. So now where the bookstore is at Howard, now that was the Howard Hotel.
Yeah, that's right. George Avenue.
Yeah, so I'm on the avenue. My dad drives up, says I'm coming up. He takes me to the restaurant. We sit down, look at the menu. We don't really say too much because I'm heated. We order some salad or something to get ready. We order our food. He says, so what you gonna do? That's how he started the conversation. So what you gonna do? And I'm telling them man, I'm not playing, and he's playing favorites, and I'm the lead. And at the time, I was the leading scorer. I led the team in assists. I think I led the team in steals. So I'm telling my sob story. My dad said, well, first of all, hold on. You 1 in 10. So whatever you're doing, that doesn't matter. You're not affecting winning. So he said, so what do you want to do? You want to leave? Because you're not coming home. Now, if you come home, you're going to the shipyard. So you can figure it out. Do you know where you're transferring to? And I'm looking at him like I'm waiting to try to, even though I know my dad doesn't play, I'm still thinking, okay, this might be the one time he feels my pain. You know, give me a little soft shoe on it.
Right.
I said, I don't know. I haven't thought about this. He said, here's something you can do. How about you shut the up and play better? He stands up. He drops $20 on the table. He gets in the car and drives home. I said, this dude just drove 3.5 hours to tell me to shut up. He was in DC for about that 15 minutes and he left.
Right.
And so when I got home, of course, my mom tried to call me, you okay? Because she knew it was coming. But what I did was I picked myself up and I went to coach and I said, listen, coach, I can't sit here and watch this go on. So worst case scenario, the last 5 minutes of the game, I gotta be in. I can't sit and watch this. And he said, you know what? Okay, I understand where you are. The next game, the first game we played, North Carolina A&T at home, I'm in the last 5 minutes as normal. Because back then I didn't really, it didn't seem like pressure to me. I'm watching Magic Johnson, Isaiah Thomas, Mo Cheeks on TV. That's, on CBS, the only channel we have is CBS. I'm watching them play. So those are the guys I said, man, you make big time free throws and big shots. That's what you're supposed to do. And so we play A&T, and sure enough, it comes down to the end. I make 4 free throws in like the last 40 seconds, we win. That year when we won the MEAC, I think I hit, it was either 8 or 9 shots or free throws in the final like 30 seconds of the game for us to win. We won 17 games. Half of them came down to something like that. But I was playing terrible when that was going on. And so I think, and Slow can probably really attest to this because of the coaching part. So when we talk to some of our guys that we coaching now, it does help you that you've gone through some of those bad experiences because you know exactly how the kid felt. But they're still going to play the games. Like they're not going to give you an off time or no, we won't put a W on the L beside this game because you feel bad or you think you should play more. Like all the time my dad would ask me, so what are you going to do? So that was the worst thing I'd ever gone through. And it ended up 3 months later, I had a ring on my finger and we playing on CBS. Now I'm the CBS player of the game. Like it was, but I came off the bench the rest of the time. Played 19.2 minutes, and Tommy, my point guard, played 19.8. So it was split down the middle, and it made me a better person fighting through that. But I had somebody there to tell me, basically, get your head out your ass and play better.
Right.
Oh, that's a good one. What about you, Slow?
Well, first I'll say is, Mr. Brown, I need some more dads like that when I'm recruiting, because I know I can get the most out of those young people with that type of following and support as a dad. But no, my parents, both mom and dad are from North Carolina. Neither one of them had a sports background whatsoever. My parents really didn't see me play until midway through my junior year. Because at that time, there was an article too that was written about me. And someone told my dad at the shipyard, he worked at the shipyard for over 35 years. And someone said, your son, he's a good ball player. My dad said, yeah, he works at it. And then one of the neighbors said to my mom within that same week, like, congratulations with all the success your son is having. She's like, what's he doing? And after that, one of my older siblings brought my mom and dad to a game on a Friday night at Warwick High School. And they finally figured out that's why he's doing what he's doing in the morning. From 9th grade to my senior year, every summer, I got up at 7 a.m. And I had a routine down throughout my high school years. In the summer, when classes were done, I get up at 7 a.m. and I dribble 5 blocks to Dunbar High School, outdoor court. Eventually the nets were gone, and I'd work out by myself. I'd pass a couple of my teammates homes and they'd hear the ball bouncing. And 2 or 3 of them would come over there with me for about 2 weeks. And one of them said, I can't do this anymore. And they ended up, we had a lot of success, dear friends to this day. But I say that because I chose to go to the University of Virginia. And as all of you know, I didn't play very much for 4 years. But I'll never forget that first regular season game. Exhibition games, at that time you play 2 exhibition games, I'd get in the game. I'm thinking I'm in the rotation, I'm good. In the meantime, got Rick Carlisle, who's a senior, who's the head coach of the Dallas Mavericks right now. And then we had 2 other seniors, Othell Wilson, who eventually was the first pick in the NBA draft, Golden State in '84. And then Ricky Stokes was a little senior water bug that had played with Ralph. So those guys had figured the college game out. And we had a junior, Kenny Johnson, from Baltimore. So I'm this young freshman at Virginia, and I never forget the first regular season game. And we play, and I didn't get off the bench. And I'm thinking, I put in all this work. In high school, I put in all this work. I felt like I brought my work ethic with me to college, but didn't get in the game. And gentlemen, after that game ended, I've never been so empty. I was drained from not playing. And I go in the locker room. It may have taken me an hour plus to come out of that locker room. I was embarrassed. And my mom and dad were at that game, one sister that was younger, and one of my older brothers who was Dwight was 4 years older than me. And I'm one of 8 kids. I'm the 5th child, baby boy. So I had 3 older brothers, but the one that was 4 years older than me, he was the one that hung around with sports quite a bit. So after the game, eventually he comes back there and says, "What are you doing?" I said, "Mom and Dad are here waiting on you." I said, "I can't come out." I said, "What do you mean you can't come out?" "I didn't play. I can't let them see me. I wasn't good enough to play." So eventually I came out, I talked to them, they went back, and I went back to that dorm alone. And I don't even think I fell asleep all night. But by the next evening, I called home. And here's my point. I've been doing this coaching thing so long, so I got my playing days, now I got my coaching hat on. So there's a lot that goes with this. But when I called home, I talked to my dad. No history of sports in his system at all. But he had work in his heart forever. And he worked at that shipyard for 35 plus years. I would hear him put those boots on at 5:45 a.m. in the morning. And by 6:25, he had it down to a T. At 6:25, I would hear the door close for him to go to the shipyard. And at 6:50 a.m., 10 minutes before that shipyard horn goes off that we could hear in that area growing up, I knew he was going into the shipyard. But that night when I called, I said, "I don't know. I didn't play last night." He said, "Did you practice today?" I said, "Yeah." And those seniors, those guys are strong. And one of them threw an elbow at me today. He just missed my face. And I'm going to get him tomorrow. He said, "Well, I don't want to talk about the elbow being thrown at your face. What I want to talk to you about, son, is this. All I have for you is this. Go back to practice tomorrow and play better and play harder. I have nothing for you back here." Related to that, Milan, I have nothing for you back here.
No doubt. I've done all I can do, man.
So, all he knew was they gave me an official visit to Charlottesville, Virginia. They took us to this restaurant called Aberdeen Barn. And we had steaks, we had shrimp, we had a lobster tail that I didn't know what to do with it, fellas, okay? I'm just being real. We didn't have that on 21st Street, fella. So all he knew was go back tomorrow. And that to this day stayed with me. And the last piece of this is, my junior year, midway through that, the academic advisor at Virginia was Mike Mallory, who's currently now the executive director of Ron Brown Scholars. Ron Brown was the politician who passed away. He oversees his foundation now and has been doing it for 10 plus years. He told me, he said, "I'm not sure where this basketball piece is going to go with you for the next year and a half here at Virginia. But I've seen your work and your level of consistency and balance of academics and athletics. All I want you to know is this. When this ball is done, and it may end for you," he gave it to me in the reel, "it may be over after your last senior game. But I need for you to continue with your consistency and the balance that you have in your life, because it's going to help you down the road." And then he made a comment that, these guys that are playing more minutes between the lines than you, one day they may ask you to hire them in a position that you have. And Mike Mallory, you talking about some wisdom. When I need to make big decisions to this day, I still talk to Mike as one of the 5 people I must talk to before I make a move. And when he said that to me, I always remembered it, and it just meant a lot. And I'll close with this. That round ball's been great to me. opened a lot of doors for me and my family. It's taken me around the world, met a lot of great people. And I try to get this message across to young people. I didn't let the ball use me. I allowed the ball to assist me and my family and some dear friends to create opportunities for them going forward. So that's kind of, being able to learn and to grow from adversity. That's the way I grew and I learned, and I carry with me to this day.
Oh, that's another good one. That's some good lessons there. Rick, what about you at Mason? You're on mute.
You got me?
Yeah.
Yep.
This is going to feel like a little bit of, I'm kind of stealing from both Milan and Slow, but when I came out of high school, I mean, there was no AAU. Slow, I think your first year, the year I graduated high school, which was 82, I think 83, which would have been your last year, your senior year, might have been the first year for Boo Williams AAU here.
The Boo Williams Summer League started the summer before my senior year. So it would have been the summer of 82. So you just missed it, Rick.
I just missed it. So I didn't have any of that. I didn't play AAU basketball. None of that existed. Back then it was a 5-Star magazine or Street and Smith's magazine, and you skim through that and see different people, but you didn't have the opportunity nor the pleasure of playing against those other people. So when I came out of high school, with the exception or inclusion of George Mason, I really wanted to go to Old Dominion in Maryland, and Paul Webb was at Old Dominion, and they stayed at my house then. I was absolutely sure I was going to Old Dominion. I was in a lot of communication with University of Maryland. Barnett was at VCU and High Point. I mean, it was schools that were there, but, and I say this with respect to Slow and Milan, when I was in high school, you recruited the mom. So people who came to my house to talk to my family about basketball, they were, even though my mom didn't know basketball from, soccer, when they came to my house, they were ultimately talking to my mom. My dad would sit there and he would chime in and stuff like that. But I think as people came to my house, they knew that I had a great relationship with both my parents, and I'm from both my parents were in my household. It felt like when people came to the house, they were recruiting my mother. I say that to say this. So at the end, I had some opportunities to go different places, and Old Dominion at the last second didn't have the same interest that George Mason was having. But I still wanted to go to Maryland. I was still talking to Maryland. And my mom said to me, she was like, Rick Barnes was at my house all the time. So my mom said to me, she goes, he seems to be interested. So immediately, although Joe Harrington was the head coach, I found this affinity for Rick Barnes. I mean, I thought if he said it, it's possible. I just felt like I could run through a wall. Now I was 18 years old. I was 17 when I graduated. But when you're 17, and he probably wasn't more than 25 or 26, which seems like 50 when you're 17, I mean, I don't know how old he is, but he wasn't, I don't think he's 10 years older than I am. So he wasn't 10 years older. I
agree. He was young at that time when he was assistant at George Mason.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that dude somehow, he found a common core with me, and I bought into it. I believed no matter what he said, I was on board with it. So to fast forward, after my sophomore year, which I didn't understand then, that it's the profession, after my sophomore year, he left and took a assistant job, I think at Ohio State. And then he went from Ohio State and Providence, Clemson, I'm probably missing the school, Texas, Tennessee,
yep.
Maybe in that order. But when he left, I was devastated. It was the worst thing in the world to me. And I really wanted to transfer. They're similar to what Milan and Slow are saying. My father was like, you can feel like that all summer you want to. In August, you're gonna be at George Mason. I mean, it was a conversation in my house. Like I was like, screw George Mason. Rick Barnes lied to me. Blah 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 blah. I don't want to go back there. I ain't going back. And I stayed in DC and played ball the whole summer. And in my head, I was going to another school when the fall started. My birthday's in July. I would always drive back to Hampton for my birthday. And I remember my birthday going into my junior year, I was telling my dad about different people that I talked to or whatever, and he was like, okay, cool, keep talking to him. You can be a George Mason when school starts. So that was a done deal, right? But it really took me a long time to get over it. I was really, really mad at Rick Barnes. I mean, my feelings for him extended beyond mad, because I felt like he'd slighted me. I'm gonna steal something that Slow just said. There are exactly 5 people, exactly 5, not 4, not 6, exactly 5 people that I use as a board. And anything that happens in my life, one of the 5 or 5 of the 5, I have to vet it with, because I'm not stupid enough to think I'm the smartest person in the room. So I have these conversations often to help guide me along. Now, fast forward, probably the best thing that happened to me after college was I got drafted in Chicago. I was, back then it was 7 rounds in the draft, but I think it was like 26 teams. And I was the 52nd or 53rd pick in the 3rd round. But I went to Chicago and I had a chance to watch a real workaholic hone his craft, and seeing MJ in practice every single day. And there were other guards in the camp that I knew that I was better than, but I didn't really understand. And the circumstance, or I think the weirdness of it was Doug Collins' first year. And the one thing that a coach wants is to put you in the game as a point guard. And I wanted to trend up, not down, but I was still learning. And he'd tell me different stuff, and I'd take a shot in middle of a play, so ultimately they waived me. And I was like, I never want to play basketball again. Forget basketball. I never want to play. Screw that. Don't want to play. I came home. I was on IR with them for a while. I came home, I don't know, November or December of my draft year, which was 86. And I did not want to play basketball. So my dad and his family worked in the shipyard, like Slow's family. My father's family worked in the shipyard. He's like, so what do you want to do? You want a job in the shipyard? Nope. What do you want to do? I don't know. Figure it out. I had a dude that was representing me as an agent. He was offering me CBA opportunities. My dad said to me, go to the CBA. Everybody you see, kill him. Don't let nobody outplay you. I mean, I should talk to him. He wasn't a phone person, but I would call home after the game and we would talk about it. All he would do was just balls out every single game. So I was kind of mad from having been in Chicago, and I'd seen, MJ was playing another game, just another game. He was just watching him in practice and playing against him in practice. He was playing another game. So I knew that I had to get better, and I didn't make the team because they slighted me. I didn't make the team because I wasn't probably doing what the coach was asking of me. So when I went to the CBA, I was first team all CBA. I was leading our team in scoring. I was averaging like 26 a game. I was rolling. And then the Spurs picked me up. Oh, no. The Nets picked me up. And then I went to the Spurs, but it kind of catapulted me, but I would not have been able to do that without first having gone through the adversity. It's amazing when you talk to people. My dad used to tell me, if you know somebody that hadn't had any adversity, they haven't fallen down, get the hell away from them. So, you can find a lot more about people and how they define themselves and how they present themselves based on how they've overcome the obstacles. It's easy. If I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. When the Steelers are winning, and we won tonight, so we 9-0. It's easy. But when they get drove, if you're on that team, that defines you far more different than when you're winning. Although winning is a fun thing to do, it's a fun place to be. It's a fun area to live in. But tell me more about you when you've had some challenges. And that's what I think a lot of people, a lot of kids don't understand. You can really find out a lot more about a person based on how they tell you how they get past those rigid spots or the adversity that they're beset with at different points in their lives.
Knowing all of you, obviously, man, it's like I have tremendous pride in all of your stories because because of the Hampton Roads area is known for football, right? But a lot of people don't know that, obviously we're in the 757 mode now, right? So you got the young guys coming up like Big Cat, and then you flip back to Bubba a little bit, and then you go Damon Baker and all those guys, which are tremendous basketball players. Don't get me wrong. But it's like this earlier piece that comes along, even dating back to Bobby Dandridge, when all of you guys were watching on TV and your dad would say, he's from Norfolk. You'd be like, right. Oh, man, he's from Norfolk. And that's what my dad did for me, particularly for Slow and Rick, because I'm looking at Slow at UVA, and I'm thinking Slow like, you know, all ACC and everything. I just see a dude from Newport News just on TV just playing. I'm like, oh man, he's from around the way. And then you look at Rick. Rick went to the league. You like, man, my dad know yeah, I know his dad. And so it's this excitement, man. And obviously Milan, we family.
No question.
So, you know, when you guys look at what you've done, because your name is written in stone in the Tidewater area, Hampton Roads area, however you want to call it in basketball. When you look at that imprint, you know, tell me how it makes you feel to have, you know, some foundation in the Hampton Roads area when it came to basketball, which is known as a football school. Because we all know our family guys, Robert Bank, Dwight Stevens, and all the boys from around the way who went on to play football. But when you think about, you know, because you know, we love Bubba. We love everybody that came after us. But the foundation started with obviously you guys and you Milan. I mean, your jersey on the wall every time I go to Howard game, I'm like, that's Milan, right? I'm taking pictures like that's my guy right there, you know. But talk about, you know, how it feels to have had a piece of that legacy, you know, cemented in Hampton Roads basketball moving forward, where everybody kind of in the area know that, you know, you guys set the stage for a lot of kids who are going on to play basketball from Hampton.
Well, the one thing that's interesting, because I'm the younger guy of the crew, like Rick and Slow got just a taste. Like they didn't get the AAU. So it's interesting, like you all, because like you brought up at first call, the eras that we were in. So Rick said Phoebus, like I used to get dropped off at my grandmother's house. Like I could jump over the fence and be at the practice football field. Like my brother Morocco and them went to Jane H. Bryant. I went to Moton because my parents had to work. So that's where we went. The AAU part, I actually benefited from that, and Slow and Rick didn't get a chance to. I was a part of that. Boo Williams was at my house 2 and 3 nights out the week eating dinner. So I knew the name Anthony Solomon because I heard them trying to pick the teams in my living room. Like I'm 12. You know, 12. My brother's 7, the other one's 5. But I was there and saw how it was forming. And I didn't know what was going on. I just knew it had something to do with sports. And I was actually able to benefit from that. So Slow might not get this as much as I do on the road coaching. But because I was able to play AAU basketball in the situation I got built up the way they did with Boo Williams and how it took off so fast. People still, when Boo's teams don't play well, guys will come up to me and ask me, hey man, what's going on with you guys? And I'm like, the last game I played with Boo was 1989 against the Russians in Hampton Coliseum. Like I coached with Boo for 2 years, but you're just connected that way. You know, connected. And if they're going great or it's not going great, the other thing too is Slow and I may call each other, text each other, hey, they okay? Because they should be playing better than this. Oh man, you see how great it is? So I actually benefited from and can take a lot of pride from the uptick because I just kept hearing about some kid named J.R. Reed who was really good. Only thing I knew was in practice the following year, there was this big, long, gangly kid that didn't let anybody make any shots named Alonzo Moore. That's all I knew. He's blocking everything. But I also, because I knew the foundation of it from my father and being around it, I knew some of the other guys that had come way before me, like, well, no, like I know Howard White was a bad dude. Now, I know that. And I'm 12. So it does give you a sense for me a little bit because of the connection. I think the time when I came up, more to shine and notoriety started to come through with AAU. So everything got a little bit more inflated. More people were able to see you. And like Rick spoke about, you got to see each other and play each other maybe on a stop before you got to college. You may have known some guys, even though we were still looking in the magazines and the papers then. But we went to Las Vegas and California to play and things of that nature with the, Kevin Swan and Terry Kirby, Lonzo Mourning, Cornell Parker, Curly Young, Dirk Williams. I mean, all of us we all went and played. So we got a chance to play against some of the best guys around the country that maybe like Slow and Rick, they want to. So my pride runs even deeper because we got a chance to not just play Newport News versus Hampton. Newport News versus Norfolk. We got a chance to go even a little bit further. Like Slow said, he got there the first year, was able to form. So nobody ever got a chance. Like Rick never got a chance to go play against the teams from Texas, and they would have found out quicker. Yeah, big guys can play point guard. There's some guys really good. So I just saw this boy from they wouldn't even know how to pronounce it, Rick.
Exactly. Phoebus.
Yeah, they would call it Phoebus. They were like, oh, well, this dude for Phoebus is killing us. I know that. Rick never got that chance. So I was able to get that chance. And so I do have a sense of connection of all around the country, and it gives me deep pride to know where I'm from and knowing that for me, I grew up in a football house. And to still be a hoop guy and be successful, to me almost means more because everybody, as I was going along, was probably thinking, well, you're end up playing college wide receiver because your dad's a coach and this is what you all do. And that wasn't my path. And my dad allowed me to chase whatever it was I was going to try to get. So, but it's big time pride in that, man. I mean, you can go on and on for days. Carl, I remember picking up Bubba Chuck in the car to take him to AAU practice when he played with Morocco and those guys. Like, I always laugh with guys. To me, Chuck is the dude with not the braids and tattoos. Like, I knew him then. Everybody knows now the guy who changed the dress code and made grown men wear jerseys to press conferences and chains, and he did all that stuff. And I'm laughing going, it's the same kid we were picking up at 10 o'clock to say, maybe you shouldn't curse in the car with my mom, man. Drop you off, it's okay. But it's big time pride. And I'm pretty sure Rick and Anthony and all of us, Vern, man, just any other sports. Like, bro, it's 757 guys that's just won the World Series. Like, it's a rich tradition. And I think obviously football put it on the map, but it's some big time hoop dudes that came through here that paved the way for guys like Allen Iverson to be able to shine. And so it's huge pride, man. I do remember the 804 a little bit too, Slow. I was young, but I was old enough that, it was 804, but 757 always.
Well, the area to me is, I always tell people that I think it's one of the most talent-rich areas for decades in a variety of sports. Like Milan said, we didn't grow up in the AAU piece, but that first summer with Blue Summer League, it's the BWSL was written on the shorts. And then when he went on the circuit for AAU, for a while, it was BWSL. And then all of a sudden we got the sneakers involved, okay? And then we had to take off that BWS. You had to make sure you said about a travel team, and AAU was the big thing to say. But, that first summer, I actually needed you, Rick, that first summer league, because we would play 2 games for like 2.5 months. So maybe it was like 10 weeks. We had 2 games per Saturday of the summer league. And when it ended, the end of the summer, we're now beginning to talk about travel. And what we did was in August, Sunny Hill Summer League came to Hampton Institute at that time in Holland Gymnasium Hall.
There you go.
And they had all those lines on the court, okay? It was like lines everywhere on that court, volleyball and everything, lines on the court.
Yep.
Well, Sunny Hill came to town and they put it on us. And remember this name? And this is why I say I needed you, Rick. I had to deal with another tall point guard. Remember Nate Blackwell?
Yes.
Okay. Nate had a little bit of you in him, okay?
They could hoop. They could hoop.
Nate could hoop. And you know what? He backed me down and put his hip on me too, like you did, okay? I tried to speed you guys up. You wouldn't speed up for me because I needed that thing to move a little bit. And but they put it on us that night. And the goal was to now go play in Philly. Well, we never went to Philly. And for whatever reason, was it financial or whatever, we never went there to play. But I always remember that as you're talking, Milan, about where did we go? Who else did you play against? We only played in our pocket. But that pocket, to me, I have a ton of respect for because there were some players before me. You guys remember Ferguson High School won the state championship. I want to think it might have been 81 state champs or 80 or 81. And they had the point guard, Rick, Grant Robinson was a big guard that played at Old Dominion. And when you mentioned that, I'm like, well, was Grant gone? Because now I got my recruiting hat on.
No, Grant came out, I think it was 81.
It was 81? Okay. Yeah. So at that time, they may not have wanted to bring in another point guard at the time because you and Grant somewhat reminded me of one another.
You know what? Let me take that back. It couldn't have been 81 because that means it would have had to be my 10th grade year because which would have been 80, the 79-80 season.
Okay.
81, I was a junior. He wasn't at Ferguson then.
Okay.
And then he actually, not to interrupt you, Slow, he actually took me out, talk about, 757. When I went to Old Dominion on my visit, Grant and Mark West took me out of my recruiting visit.
Yes, sir. I could see them doing that. Two Tide-worthy guys. Certainly he would be your host. The other thing I'll say is, in terms of the different sports, baseball wise, I mean, them two the Upton boys, come on now.
Yeah, for real.
Both #1 in the same family.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't play on the circuit, but when I sit around and I start talking to people, I will bring their names up from the baseball circles because they would know that. Then football-wise, when I'm at Warwick High School, I knew the Hampton Crabbers. I knew about Bethel because those were the teams. Like Hampton may have beaten our football team 49-0, 3 out of my 4 years in high school. I mean, so the Hampton Crabbers, okay? And Robert Banks was number 55.
Notre Dame,
but that was a linebacker. Yeah. And I'm talking trash in high school. Hey, fellas, hey, we got the Crabbers tonight. All I know is watch 55. Watch 55. And when I went to Virginia, Kevin Gould, DB, just a steady defensive cornerback, played at Virginia. We were roommates.
Oh, wow.
I know you and Gould were roommates. Okay.
Gould and I roommates. And still to this day, we're really good friends. Our families and I, we connect. So the football, the baseball piece to me, I throw it all on them about 757 because part of it is they don't remember me through Boo Williams, that type of thing, even though it was an impactful experience for me. I was listening, Vernon, and called the one night you may have had, you had Terry Kirby and Slade on, and they brought up this name, Mr. Bob Tyson.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, fellas. I mean, you start talking this. I mean, he helped me in Boo. That was the first summer. I happened to come out of this as the Boo Williams MVP. So I'm like the first MVP. Mr. Tysinger loved that. About me, you the MVP of the Boo Williams Summer League. And that was kind of his baby in terms of sports and all of that. So, being associated with all of this, like Milan mentioned, being on the circuit as a coach, when you see Boo Williams travel teams and I want them to win. I want them to be successful. And when they don't have it going on, I get my comments in there as well. But, again, fellas, as I mentioned earlier, it's great to be on here. I feel sorry, I kind of apologize because, I wasn't familiar with the Hampton Roads Youth Foundation up until during this pandemic, to be honest with you. And I don't get back very much. I haven't been back now for a year with the pandemic. My mom my dad passed away 10 years ago this year. My mom is in a nursing home there in Newport News. As I mentioned earlier, I'm one of 8 kids. One brother passed, but the other 6 siblings and myself, we're still alive, but they call me the Lone Ranger. 5 of them live in between Newport News and Hampton. And then my one sister lives up right outside of Richmond. So in terms of the foundation, I've heard about you guys, what you do in the summers with these football camps. You're doing great things. And I just want to say, I've been on this run for 3 decades, man, doing what I do in this profession. It keeps you busy, but I've not forgotten what the areas did for me. It fed me well, I like to tell people. It fed me well because it wasn't always easy, but I accepted the challenges and the adversity, and it's made me better to this day. And it's an area that I speak about openly and with a lot of pride. And when I've been able to see what you guys have been doing, I've been reading up on the foundation, and just want you to know if I can ever assist and help, don't hesitate to reach out to me.
Good stuff. Yeah, it's it's funny. The connective tissue is amazing, and as I listen to both Milan and Slow, I'm reminded of it. I mean, when Milan was at Hampton, I used to bump into his dad, and he'd when you go back up to DC, go check Milan. Like it was his father telling me, what was going on. And then I remember going to, I don't know who it was, but the game was definitely at Howard. And one of my really good friends who lives in DC, he wanted to go to the game, but not to the game. He just wanted to go to Howard because he felt like there was something, it was something going on. Exactly. He wanted to go to the game, but not to the game. So I went to the game, and it was the first time I saw. I mean, I knew who Milan was because I knew who his family was, but it was the first time that I actually saw him play. And I remember sitting in the student union at George Mason and seeing Slow in a Cavaliers uniform the first time. And back then, you didn't know other people from here that went off and participated. I mean, Terry Kirby, yeah, but there weren't many. There was a dozen or less for sure that you could have given me the entire day and asked me to name the other people who were playing in any realm of sport in college. And it would have been a challenge for me because I just, again, more difficult to communicate and stay linked, but just a different time period. Just recently at Phoebus, they hung my jersey, and Lonnie Miller came, and Anthony Whitaker came, and Boo was there, and H flew in for it, and I mean, people were calling me, Sleepy Lynch, who played at Hampton High School, was still a good friend. I mean, the people that, I've bumped into so many different people over the years who I played high school basketball against, and it just reminds you of it's good to see that people are doing well in their lives. It's good to see. I mean, for you guys to be coaching, surely with you, Slow, for the length of time that you've been coaching, and respect to what you're doing and a great job as well, Milan. It's not easy. It's really not easy. I mean, to be that tenured in what you're doing is pretty amazing. But I'll finish it with this: to come back here to the Hampton Roads area, and even more than that, like you're talking about baseball. If you set a baseball on a tee and gave me a bat and let me swing 10 times, I can't hit it. So anybody that played baseball, like when I was a kid, I loved football. I played football and basketball 5th through maybe 9th grade. And then when I was in 10th grade at Phoebus, I played JV football. And my dad came to the game and somebody knocked the hell out of me. And my dad was like, yo, you are what's called a big target. It's time to turn all this equipment in and give it back, son. This ain't your game right here. You know, so my dad, he literally was like, you know, he should come, my father used to come to the games, man. I mean, like, you know, when the game's over, you want to go to your parents and see, and them kind of like, you know, revel in this regalia of what you've done amazing. My dad would be shaking his head like, son, this ain't the one right here, buddy. Come on out of there. So after like midway through my 10th grade year, no joke, I was like, done. I'm finished. It's gonna be basketball. So I still, like you talk about Robert Banks and different guys that played, I was always and have always been really, really enamored with people that come from this area and can expound themselves into different things outside of the 757 area and be successful with it. That's kudos, I think, to one, the commitment to being and doing what you really have a passion for, and people like yourselves, Vernon and Carl, that are kind of helping broaden that message so others hear what it takes to do those things. And I'll say this too. I mean, Milan and Slow, you know, amazing to be on here with you guys, man. I feel like I was a replacement. Carl called me like yesterday or something, the night before, a late ad, who canceled and you let me get on?
Thank you. Man, I didn't have your number. I had to call somebody to get your number. I forgot who it was. I was like, I had to get, because I've been trying to get you on since the summer. Am I right, Slow?
Oh, you did, you did.
Hey, that's right.
He has been saying that. He's like, man, we got to get Rick on.
Gotta get Rick on. That's my man right there, boy.
Well, one time, Rick, Carl had said he had you, but I canceled and said, not this Sunday, not this Sunday.
Yeah.
We had a Zoom call with recruiting or something that I couldn't get on, but I'm gonna throw this one at you too. There's another name with linking us to each other with the difference in sports. DJ Dozier.
Yes.
Oh yeah, we had DJ on.
Okay. Well, I've not seen DJ other than on television, that type of thing. My junior year, we're playing First Colonial in the regionals at Ferguson High School. I always knew that that's a great running back going to Penn State. He gets a rebound one night in that game.
Played basketball?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
DJ got a rebound, and I tried to get in there and swipe it from him. I came this close from taking a Hall of Famer's elbow in the eye of the nose. I reached in there, he just missed me, and I got away from it. But I always remembered him. And anytime I think about football players from the area, I think of DJ, Penn State and NFL and all that. But, you know, all of this, I think the links are special, and there's a lot of great stories. But I didn't want to stop talking about the link without mentioning DJ, because he was one of my favorites.
And you know what's really cool too, I mean, again, different era. I'm sure with both of you guys and your teams, I mean, working at Nike right now, I see LeBron and Chris and Carmelo and those guys, you know, and Dwayne Wade. I see them in the summer. I see them in kind of the connective tissue that they are part of. I mean, they're friends for life, I'm sure. Work out together. And my point being, that's not how I grew up playing basketball. That's not how Slow grew up playing basketball. Milan, I know you. That's not how you grew up playing basketball. It was a little different. So therefore, until I was kind of out of the game, I tore my ACL in 93 or 92 or 93, which forced me to go, okay, wow, now I got to shift this thing somehow. And I'd made enough contacts over the year when I was playing basketball to know at some point that's would come to an end. And I was fortunate to, you know, find the right opportunity at Nike. But I say that to say this. You just mentioned DJ Dozier, Slow, which made me think about it. Different person, different background. But Doozy, you know, Lawrence Richardson, who played at Ferguson. He lives in Miami. I played against him in high school. Couldn't stand him in high school. I mean, didn't like him at all. I just want to punch him.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah.
Could not stand him. I never spoke to that dude in my life in high school. Not a hello, not a goodbye.
Yes.
I wouldn't talk to him at the camp. I just wanted to choke him out every time I saw him. One of my friends, I go to Miami. My wife's from Miami. You know, Doozy lives in Miami. His son is, I think he's still at Old Dominion playing football there. I go to Miami. That's who I'm with. But
you went Doozy?
yeah, I I talked to Doozy. That's my man.
Doozy is great friends with Swinburne.
I remember Swilly.
In their family, okay?
Yep.
And one of the Swinburnes was my same class.
That was Kelly.
That was Kelly, yes.
Yeah.
Please tell Doozy that we did this together because
no
I
doubt.
knew he was in Miami. And wow, I did not know. But you mentioned earlier about us interacting with each other. It wasn't personal. I didn't care to talk to you.
Yeah.
All I know is I got to get ready, get my warm up in, and we got to get ready to ball.
Yep.
Whereas now these guys, I mean, even at the college level, you know, you're out there, you're watching your team warm up. These guys are like dapping each other up at half court, and then you go back to the locker room. You want, are you guys ready to play? Because everyone has interacted with each other on the circuit.
Yeah. And do I tell you guys? I'll tell you a funny story. We played. It might have been Boston University when Rick Pitino was there. Had to be my sophomore year. We played Boston University. They weren't very good. And the game before, and it was a habit of mine. And guys that were when I was at Mason, guys that, you know, weren't playing as much, they were like, I mean, we'd start a game and I'd start slow and finish strong. Like it was like I was always playing better the second half than the first half. Trying to pride myself around it. So a game or two before we played Boston University, I got like 16, 18 points at the half. And now the second half, I'm just passing the ball and we lose. And this goes on one game, it goes on two games. But we play Boston University and I don't start. And I mean, like, what? I'm not starting, I don't start. And then the next game, we play at New Orleans, which we lost. And then we played UAB. They had a point guard named Steve Mitchell. We played them and we beat them and they were ranked. And Rick Barnes started me against UAB. So he never told me why. I just knew for like 2 or 3 games, he benched me. Didn't tell me why my numbers were the same, but he benched me. So when he's coaching at Texas, when they had TJ Rencher, I think was his name, and they had some other guys down there, or Terrence Rencher was his name. There's some other players on there. So I go down there to speak, and he tells them this story. He goes, like, I had this young guy talk to you, blah, blah, blah. He goes, but I got to tell you this. He goes, there were a couple games in college where he was best point guard in the country in our conference, and I didn't start him. He never asked me a question. He goes, let me tell you why. He goes, sometimes out of that 40-minute game, there'd be 8 minutes, 7 minutes where he just wouldn't go hard. And I hated it because sometimes those 7 or 8 minutes would show up at the most inconvenient time, and it would hurt our program. So he goes, so I figured, Rick Barnes, he's like, so I figured, since you're going to dog it on me for 7 or 8 minutes, I'm going to pick the damn 7 or 8 minutes. It's going to be the first 7 or 8 minutes. So I'm going to set your ass down at the start of the game. And when I put you in there, you're going to play like a bat out of hell. And it worked. Right. But I never asked him a question. I mean, I'm talking 20 years later, he explained that to me. Now, he benched me like 2 games in a row. Same numbers. He just was going, hey, dude, go. Stop. You're passing the ball to other people that ain't bringing it. They ain't bringing it. Stop that. But it was a habit. You're going to dog it on me for 7, 8 minutes. I'm going to pick the 7 or 8. And he set me down.
That's a great one.
Yeah. No, man, that is good. Guys, we could go on and on and on, but to be able to capture some of the stories, you know, both, you know, a number of things about the coaching, the mentoring, the lessons learned. I mean, all the things that when Carl and I started doing this is exactly what we're hoping to get. And for me personally, I didn't play collegiate sports. I was an Air Force ROTC. I was an officer in the Air Force and went on to business and consulting and started my own firm. But one of the things that's always driven me is around being able to pull on the success of our area, that level of confidence, you know, having played football at Hampton High and won state championships, but knowing about what you guys are doing, there was always something, you know, no matter where I would go and whether I'm in Europe or Asia and the business, like there was always those things to hear about, Rick, some of the things you did and, you know, amazing stuff at Converse and Nike and Slow, your, you know, head basketball coach and Milan, you know, being a fellow Bison. So all those things I'm letting you know have always motivated me to keep working hard because of the things that guys, what you've done. And I'm sure those are the same lessons that, you know, a lot of our viewers and some of the kids that are playing sports and non-sports will be able to use to motivate and be contributing positively in society as well. So we appreciate you guys coming on.
Yeah, it's fun.
And I want to say too, man, you know, look, y'all know how I feel about y'all, man. Y'all my guys, man. So, you know, for me, you know, I saw Slow on the circuit because my son played a little basketball out there. And so I saw Slow on the circuit over there on the sideline, you know, doing his evaluating, looking like a doctor on his examining the game. You know how he is, Milan out there.
No question.
I went over, you know, he's
Glasses in the
like,
book.
yeah, like he analyzed. Don't talk to me.
Hey,
Hey,
he
you know
knows
what's
all
going
those names. He trying to trick somebody. He already knows who he's looking for. He's tricking somebody.
Hey, Milan, but just like he said he played basketball, that's how he recruit. He don't talk to nobody. He's over there by himself, like, and I'm walking up on him. He looking at me like, man, who is this dude? And I'm like, man, relax, I'm from home, man. I'm 7'5". You know, okay. So,
Oh, man.
and I got to talking. I was like, man, look, you know, I know you from the area. You don't know me. He looking at me side eye, and we got to talking, man. And we talked about Slow and all this stuff because I heard so much about it since my son was playing all up. I said, man, I can't wait to meet this guy. Until this day, man, we just like, I was telling him a story about even Mike Tomlin because obviously Mike Tomlin is a part of this effort that we're doing. Yeah. And I mentioned to Mike Tomlin, I said, yeah, man, me and you know, Anthony Solomon was just talking about you. And the first thing out of his mouth, oh, you talking about Slow? Oh, yeah, Slow. And Anthony's never met Mike Tomlin.
Never met.
That's just the name and what it meant to the area, you know, in terms of, you know, how it meant. So I just want to say how much y'all guys mean to me. And I've been trying to, you know, get this show forever because I met Rick when I first got into the business because I actually through H, and then I'm finding out, oh, Rick Wilson. Oh, and then everything just started rumbling on down. And I asked my dad, he was like, you don't know Rick Wilson? And then coming down. And I was like, oh, man, I got to get with him. I mean, me and Rick just been flowing in Milan. You know, we've been knowing each other forever. He pops him. So, man, it's just an honor, man. It really is, man. Y'all family to me. But to have y'all on tonight, I finally got it done. And, you know, I could have had it like Rick up there talking, man, you know, you got Lonzo. I said, man, I don't want none of them. I want this is my crew. You know, we got some other guys from the area like Art Jones and all them guys that went on and had good careers in college too. But this is my crew, man. So I want to thank y'all and for motivating us, Rick, with the basketball camp, man. I mean, bro, my son Blake and my son Brandon got pictures with Dwayne Wade right now, right in their room from that camp. So you dropped that camp in the core of Newport News, where kids ain't have nothing to eat. Kids come there, you get a piece of that, man. You got 2-3 boxes going home. I mean, you bringing in Charles Barkley, but you impacted the community, man. Real talk, like you know, BW Webb, all them guys were there, and so you really set a tone, and you know, bringing some prosperity to some youth around there, man. So what you've done for the community has been tremendous, brother.
No, that was really fun, man. It was funny, man. I went to and I know we're short on time. I went to an international game. It was called Hoop Heroes. It was a Nike event. And Juwan Howard, Barkley, Keith Van Horn, Eddie Jones, Rod Strickland. It was like 15 guys. We would take them to Europe every year and they play against the international team. And I think it was like 96, 97, the particular year. We went over and Carlos Arroyo was playing for the Spanish team. And they beat the hell out of this NBA team. It was ridiculous. Carlos Arroyo was rolling. So we went a couple times. So one year we were coming back and Barkley was going, how's your camp going? And I was like, what the hell camp is he talking about? He kept asking me this. So how's your camp going? What I didn't know was his college coach, who I can't recall his name, was coaching at Union or VCU or somewhere in Richmond. I know it had something to do with him being in Richmond.
He was at VCU.
He was at VCU, okay. So he told me, so Charles was like, hey, whatever year you decide to have your camp, let me know. I'm gonna come down and help you. I was like, yeah, right, dude. Like, you're gonna come to Hampton and help me launch this camp. So when I started putting it together, to be honest with you, the way that it landed at Heritage was that I wasn't doing it for profit. I was like, we would charge some of the kids, and then to offset that, the other kids were coming for free. You know, and you know, I get different people to donate the foods, and I was paying for the t-shirts. I mean, it was clearly not for profit, but Charles was like, I'll help you the first year. So the first year that we had the camp, well, I was trying to have it in Hampton, you know, not to denigrate on the city of Hampton, but I couldn't find any place to really give me a facility. Not even my high school couldn't find a facility. And I got into a conversation, it might've been Boo, who said, hey, touch base with Dennis Kecoughtan or something like that.
Yep.
Yep.
And he, through a couple conversations or something like that, he, we figured it out. I'm not doing it for profit, blah, blah, blah. I just want to get some of these kids in here. So I called Charles and I was like, here's the date. This is the date I'm doing it, thinking he's never going to come. Dude called me the night before. He goes, when you start your camp? Tomorrow. My sister was at the door every single morning. She came in and got me. She said, Barkley just touched down. He's on his way over here. I was blown away. I mean, so those guys knew exactly kind of what I was doing and why I was doing it and dedicated their time. I mean, Charles stayed there 2 days, Now, again, a part of the commitment from him was that he needed to be in Richmond as well, but he clearly didn't have to. Hampton's not an easy place to get to. So, he came down to help me get it off the ground. We did it for a few years. And then, quite frankly, it just started conflicting with the priorities because I was in Portland, Oregon. But it was one of the prouder things I think I've done, period. Not just in the Hampton Roads area, but at all. It was really fun and enjoyable to be a part of.
That's why it's great to see what Vernon, you and Carl are doing, man. I think that's one of the things that's big in the 757 is there is a lot of pride and things that Rick can do. And when you bring back camps, football, but whatever the case may be, hopefully every year looks like everybody that gets a chance to do something special in their life can have a chance to help out. Because somebody else because in the 7-5, it's crabs in a bucket sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's fighting for the same piece. And so as the years go on, I think a lot of guys have been able to come back to show there's another avenue. Let me give you another path that was a little bit wider than I had. And that's all you're trying to do. It's a bigger space for you to get fit through here to be successful.
Right.
If I was smaller, we're going to hopefully increase it year by year. And then you take a lot of pride in watching those kids play. So you scream at the TV if Percy Harvin runs back a kickoff in the Super Bowl because he's from the crib.
Yeah.
You doing those things. You yelling at the crib in New Orleans because you want pass interference because Ronald Curry is with New Orleans. You want to try to make sure that our guys are always successful. So I'm happy, and it was terrible how it ended up with the pandemic, but I couldn't wait to see what Dayton was going to do in a tournament because my 757 brother, they have a team that might end up being one of the last 4 to play. So you just want to try to make sure that all those guys and girls as well have an opportunity every year. It just gets bigger and bigger to show them there is a little bit more wiggle room for you to be successful. And as Slow said earlier, to make sure you use the sport. Don't let the sport use you up. And I think if you go about it that way, that's how you continue to keep lifting up the community. And hopefully some of the young guns that may listen to this, they may be looking at it saying, this is just 5 old guys talking. But at the end of the day, all of us were in his shoes. And the ones that kind of want to listen to that will probably have a little bit better path because there's always, the talent is never the issue. It's never the issue. I can remember when I benefited because I stayed around after I got out of college. I came back and coached at Kecoughtan and coached with Boo. So I got a chance to see Bubba and Rutland play and, Aaron Brooks and all those guys. I got a chance to see all that. Ronald Curry and coach against him. And I got a chance to see, and it made me proud to see the way that they raised my young brother, Marseille. I can remember him playing in the 9th grade. Like Ricky, like you said, you all couldn't play in 9th grade. Marseille got pulled up to varsity in 9th grade. I think his second game was against Bethel High School with Tony Rutland and Allen Iverson. They know Marseille for his entire life. And when they threw that ball up, when I tell you they went after him like he had something good to eat, it wasn't funny. Because they had this is how we're going to do it. Now, either you're going to survive or you're not. And I can remember one of the great pictures, they pressed him and Marseille beat the trap, and then they did it again. He beat the trap, and they fouled him. Marseille going to go to the free throw line, and Bubba rubbed his head like, good job, boy. Then the next play took the ball from him and did like a 360 dunk. But it's just a chance to see those guys and hear those names. And like my guy, Chip West, who's a cornerback coach at Syracuse. And I'm telling them about Curry saying, listen, Ronald just won the state championship in the 9th grade on a Saturday. We play those guys. I'm coaching with three Division I players, my brother, Brett Harper and Nas. They're not going to beat us in Hampton. He's only practiced one day. He walks in our gym and gets 29 points. Like just a crazy athleticism. And then as the years go on, my man Chip West says, I'm telling you, Ronald Curry is a bad boy. You need to go to one of those games at Todd Stadium. He said, I want you to remember this name, the boy Michael Vick. He said, I'm telling you. I said, it's another one down the road. He said, I'm just telling you, it's another boy down there. And sure enough, 4 or 5 years later, this dude's commercials probably one of the biggest ever. He's on a video game. He's an actual video game in real life.
Right.
But all of those guys got a chance. And I think the pathway is a little bit more open. And it's not really for the guys like Iverson and Zoe, JR. Not really. It's for guys like not Rick, because Rick was a pro. It's for me and Slow. Carl, it's for you.
Mm-hmm. That's
like
right.
we weren't going to be on. Now, when it's time to play, though, we're going to play as if we are pros. You're going to have to kill us to beat us. But it's more of the guys like us, myself, Slow, and Carl, that, and Vernon, who didn't, like you said, Vernon didn't play in college, but there's so much impact you can have if you do it the right way for the community.
That's right.
That it can't just be about what they pumping air into whatever leather. That can't just be it.
Yeah.
Because you will be lost at some point if you don't know the other things that are available. And all the things that you all are doing, I promise you, it's some 17 or 18-year-old kid looking at you all right now going, I never thought about doing that. That's something I can do. And so you're having such a great impact on the community down there, man. It's big time stuff. So like I echo what Rick and Slow say, man, I appreciate you all putting me on here. I don't feel worthy enough to be on to tell you the truth.
But you got, if I got to do this again, man, let me know a little bit early. I got to get a better backdrop. Y'all look real accomplished with your backdrop.
Hey, Rick, these things have changed, hasn't it, man?
Right. I will say this: the love and energy that we have going on, and next year is our 25-year anniversary of the football camp weekend. But Carl and I have always talked about expanding it and doing other things besides the camp weekend. So we need to get together about doing some basketball related. Rick's already laid the blueprint, whether that's a camp, a clinic, a coaching session, but we need to do that and leverage this energy that we got because there's a huge audience for it. So let's follow up on that.
I'm on, however.
We'll work on it.
All right, much love to everybody.
All right, thank you guys, man.
Appreciate
God
y'all.
bless you all, brothers. Great seeing you.
Absolutely.
All right, brothers.
Love you.
Good luck this season.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.